Hi everyone, Bandanner here. I hope you're all doing well. Welcome back to the final Broken Arrow dev blog before the open beta starts on the 12th of November. To anyone who's already in the closed beta, I hope you're enjoying it, but remember you're under NDA, so hush hush down below in the comments. The question becomes, what do they have for us this week? Well, the title of this dev diary, number 12, is Novelties and Changes. First up is the brand new War Goals game mode. So during the previous beta, we proposed a very simple game mode which you had to capture all the zones or hold more zones than the opposing team at the end of the 45-minute timer. This game mode had several advantages. It was extremely simple to understand. Rushing the points early was not mandatory. It's a strategy with risks and rewards. And finally, you had time to come back if you lost that initial engagement. But it also had a major downside, as many of you will remember. Everything was determined at the last second of the match. So the optimal strategy was to generally play very defensively, hoard money until the end of the match, and then make a big assault at the end, sacrificing all your units like lemmings to capture one more point than the enemy team just before the timer ran out. We've all been there in the last beta, right? I will admit I was on both sides of that at one time or another, guilty as charged. It just happened. To remedy that problem, they say, without losing the advantages, we've come up with a new game mode called War Goals. So, the War Goals game mode is played in 3 phases of equal duration, 3 times 15 minutes by default. During each phase there are 6 War Goals, 3 Conquest goals consisting of capturing more objectives than the enemy, and 3 Destruction goals consisting of destroying more units than the opposing team. At the end of each phase we count how many War Goals each team has achieved, and we grant them victory points. The War Goals are worth 1 point during Phase 1, 2 points during Phase 2, and 3 points during Phase 3, which means that even if you had a bad start, you still have the opportunity to come back during the next phase. We have high hopes that this new game mode will please everyone, as it has many advantages. Rewards both Conquest and Destruction. It also still allows a comeback at any stage of the match. It's more dynamic than the previous mode, as you cannot stay on the defensive for 45 minutes. It gives you time to prepare your counterattacks instead of being forced to send your units immediately into the meat grinder, as there is no loss of points every second. End match rush is not a viable option anymore, because, well, you're going to have points from before that anyway. So this was obviously the big secret game mode that Felix was talking about previously. He mentioned it in one of the QAs, that he had a game mode but he was keeping it to himself for the time being. Well, now we know what it is. It's kind of a mixture of Conquest and Destruction with, goals achieved at each of those 15-minute stages of the 45-minute match. I guess you will be able to change the timings and things for custom game modes. So that sounds like a really interesting concept for a game mode. I'm looking forward to playing that and seeing if it lives up to the hype. Next up, they have a little section on matchmaking improvements. So in the previous beta, you had to create teams of 5 players using the lobby system, and then the matchmaker was putting you against another team of 5. This system still exists, but it has been improved in several ways. First up is Quick Search. You can now use the Quick Search function to find a match rapidly without having to create or join a lobby. This is ideal if you are alone and just want to rapidly play a balanced multiplayer match with random allies and opponents. Next up is Incomplete Teams Merging. You are no longer forced to wait until all the slots of your lobby are filled. Just close the slots you don't need and start the search. The matchmaker will complete your team with another incomplete team or people using the quick search. I mean, I guess that's the perfect way to play with friends when you're not a full 5-stack, right? You get into a lobby with 3 people and then close the others and off you go. Those are very welcome additions, I will say. Next up, they have a little comment on rating. So players now have an ELO rating value, which is used by the automatic matchmaker to propose balanced matches. The rating works as follows. The rating of your team is compared with the rating of the opposing team to form a prediction. The team with the higher rating is supposed to win. If you win against a team that has a better rating, or you lose against a team that has a lower rating, it means the prediction was wrong, so the ratings are modified to better predict the next matches. If you win against a weaker team or lose against a stronger team, it means the prediction was correct, so the ratings will not change much or even at all. You don't have any rating during the first 3 matches. This is the calibration phase. Okay, Next up is invitations. It is now possible to invite your friends to the lobby. You can do so from your friend list in your profile or by using the Steam overlay. This is a simple method to play together without having to find your friend's lobby name in the list. Hallelujah! That's probably the most important thing. You could have started with that. And then, as if that wasn't enough, the next one's quite exciting as well: custom matches. It is now possible to create custom matches without an automatic matchmaker. It means that both teams will gather in a single lobby, and the player creating the lobby, called the host, takes all the decisions. This will allow you to train with friends, organize tournaments, and test unusual game rules. Custom lobbies can be played by a number of players from 1v1 to 5v5, including unbalanced numbers like 1 versus 5. The host decides which map is to be played, which faction each team will play, including the possibility to let people choose a mix of USA and Russia within the same team. I believe someone recently asked in the comments in one of the previous videos if you could play as USA versus USA, etc. The answer is yes then, in custom game modes. And indeed, even having a mix of USA and Russia on the same team. For the moment, the game rules are the same as a standard match, but later we will add more options to change the economy, the duration of the match, etc, etc. Custom matches don't affect your rating as they don't use the automatic matchmaker, and the rules of the match can be modified by the host. This also means that we cannot guarantee the fairness of custom matches as the host is responsible for that. Well, from my perspective, lots of good news there, but there is more still to come in this devblog. Next up is multiplayer/co-op scenarios. A scenario is the layer containing anything that is not the map itself, so a multiplayer game mode is a scenario. A campaign mission with cutscenes and dialogue is a scenario. 3 units placed on a map to test is a scenario. The game will contain an integrated scenario editor, accessible from the main menu, which will allow you to create all of that. Any scenario created within the editor can be configured to be multiplayer, PvP, or PvE, uploaded on the Steam Workshop and played in versus or co-op mode. You don't have access to the editor yet, but to test this functionality, we will add some cooperative scenarios to the beta for you to play. So for anyone hoping for multiplayer co-op stuff, there you go. They're going to have some in the beta already. Happy days. One of them is a kind of tower defense where you gain money by killing enemy waves. The other resembles Battlefield's assault mode where you need to capture sectors in a zone to progress to the next zone. I mean, the fact they've got stuff like that already in the editor is fantastic. I'm really excited for the editor in this game. I probably mentioned it in some of my older videos. They haven't shown much of it for a long time, but I know Felix was very much someone who used the Operation Flashpoint editor back in the day. So did I, to make missions, and then obviously the Armor games after that. So if he's got anything like those games, and that was the aim, then there's going to be a lot of fun to be had in this editor. So I, for one, am very excited about the scenario editor. And there's still more in this devblog. So next is experience medals and profile customization. When you play standard or custom matches, you will be granted experience points at the end of the match. The amount of XP you gain depends on the type of match. ×2 for a standard, the level of victory or defeat, plus or minus 10% for a minor, major is plus or minus 25%, or 50% for a total victory. And your individual performance during the match. Destroying enemy units, capturing zones, resupplying your allies, and keeping your units alive all increase your score. Additionally, you can gain special medals if you achieve certain conditions like having the best kill-to-death ratio or winning against a team with a higher rating than your team. To access your profile and see which medals you have earned, click on your portrait on the top right corner of the screen. You will find statistics about yourself, the possibility to customize your avatar, your friends list to invite people to your lobby, and the leaderboard to see how you fare compared to other players. Gaining experience allows you to increase your rank globally or per specialization, which unlocks customization options for your profile. Everyone loves a bit of cosmetic stuff, right? Okay, and there's one last section of this devblog, and it's all about the army builder rules and the improvements around that. So as mentioned in the previous devblog, infantry will now be able to ride in any vehicle or helicopter present in your battle group, provided there are enough seats. But vehicles are still associated with infantry during the battle group creation, so you won't be able to use the Marines' new ACV-30 for instance if you don't add some USMC infantry to your battle group first. The second improvement is that we have added a 10% tolerance margin to the total number of points you can assign each category. which means that if you have a limit of 1,000 points for planes, as an example, you'll be able to fill a category up to 1,100 points. If you are above the base value, but within the 10% tolerance margin, the number of points in this category will be displayed in orange. If you go beyond the 10% margin, the value will be displayed in red and the battle group will be invalid. Please note, however, the total limit of 10,000 points for the whole deck remains, meaning that any extra points you put into one category will be missing from another. This makes battle group creation a little bit more flexible, as you can transfer points from one category to another. It also removes the frustration of being stuck because one of your units is 5 points too expensive to fit into a category. I can almost guarantee that I will find some way to still make 5 points matter, even with a 10% tolerance margin. And that is pretty much the end of the dev blog. They say, see you on the battlefield, commanders. This was our final dev blog before the start of the open beta on November 12th. We hope to see the maximum number of players taking part in it, so don't forget to tell your friends to join up on the battlefield and team up against thousands of other players from around the world. Cheers, Steel Balalica and Slytherin. Very excited to see all of this new stuff in action. Very excited to try out the new co-op game modes as well, just to see how they play and get an idea of what's going to be available within that editor and what we can do with it, because it's going to give us some insight, right? I hope everyone has an absolutely fantastic weekend. If you're already playing, I hope you're enjoying it. Otherwise, see you all next week when we'll be able to do some proper gameplay and show it off a bit. Please, as ever, like, share, subscribe, and I'll see you all soon for some more Broken Arrow.